Okay, hi there, Geoff back with another Synoptic revision video. Let's take a look synoptically at the market for e-car sales, electric vehicles. Here's the context. Registrations of petrol and diesel cars in the European Union were down by nearly 10% in 2021, as the chart shows. That's data from the European Automobile Manufacturers Association. Whereas, as you can see, sales of cars with alternative powertrains, in other words, hybrid electrical, plug-in hybrids, and battery electric, they're up. And indeed, though the share of cars made with alternatives to petrol and diesel made up more than a third of newly registered automobiles in the European Union. I guess a similar thing will be happening in the UK as well. Here's a question. Can you give me 3 microeconomic influences? So this is a question about factors, isn't it? Micro influences on the future growth of sales of e-vehicles in the European Union or a country of your choice. Well, this is a moment where you might want to press the pause button and have a go, jot them down for a few seconds. What are the micro factors, or some of them, influencing sales of e-vehicles in the EU? What do you reckon? Well, here's my answers. I've gone for these 3 points. Of course, there's many more. One is real prices. So typically, if you think about the market, if there is greater contestability, if more firms start manufacturing e-vehicles, the competition between suppliers might well drive down prices. And as a result, that makes e-vehicles more affordable to the average consumer. And prices might also fall because of economies of scale as producers start to ramp up production. So competition and scale would be, you could put those points together on the supply side, and you could certainly draw a diagram, either supply and demand or cost and revenue curves, to show how that expands the level of demand. Another micro factor could be the cost of inputs used in production. So keep in mind, of course, that one of the biggest single costs of electric vehicles is the battery, the lithium-ion battery. One example of a battery. So the world price for something like lithium would have an effect on import costs. If the world price goes up, supply costs go up. If the world price falls, supply costs go down. And linked to that, of course, the technologies available to car producers. Can they find new generations of batteries that perhaps could reduce their costs? A third factor would be government intervention in the market. So, for example, the government might, as they have it in the UK, offer a direct subsidy paid to consumers, and that would lead to an outward shift of demand. So lots of things you could talk about here. All you have to do is pick out a micro influence and then support it with a relevant diagram. What about the macro influences? What would be macro factors on the future growth of sales of e-vehicles in the EU or a country of your choice? I've picked out 3. I've picked out interest rates, taxation and trade. Now, you don't have to mention all 3 in the exam. You just pick out one and develop a chain of reasoning. Think about interest rates. First of all, many new vehicles are bought on credit, unsecured credit, often car loans. And if central banks, as they are at the moment, are raising interest rates, you could show your knowledge there. This might limit the growth of demand as loans now cost more to repay. So when monetary policy is being tightened, perhaps that could affect sales of e-vehicles. Taxation also likely to affect sales. And you could bring in the idea that the demand for new vehicles is likely to be highly income elastic. For many people, they're a luxury good. And therefore, demand is affected by changes in direct taxation, income tax and national insurance in the UK. So if those taxes go up, as they have been doing in recent times, show your knowledge there, that might reduce real disposable incomes, and other things remaining the same, that would bring down demand. And trade policy. So whilst many e-vehicles are manufactured in the European Union, inside the single market, others are not. You might import them from South Korea or Japan or the United States or China or even Vietnam. So a fall in import tariffs due perhaps to a trade agreement, let's say the EU agrees a trade agreement with South Korea or with Vietnam, that would reduce the price of imports coming in, and that would lower prices and expand demand. And indeed, you could then use a tariff diagram, a trade liberalisation diagram, to show that point. So those are the KA aspects. Let me just think about evaluations. So in your evaluation, often in the 25 marker, you might want to ask the question, are micro or macro factors more important? Well, it depends, doesn't it, on the context. I would argue, for example, in the moment, I'm thinking about buying an electric vehicle, but the economy is not doing too well. Fears of a recession. So in the short run, perhaps macro factors might be more significant. The cost of living crisis, people are thinking about what they can really genuinely afford to spend their money on. Can they keep it going with a petrol or diesel car for another year or two? Falling real incomes could be a factor. Of course, the world price of oil and gas, with petrol prices as they are, maybe that's a factor driving demand even higher this year. But in the long run, micro factors might dominate. Of course, you might talk about long-run economies of scale in production, a long-run expansion of the electric vehicle charging infrastructure, including superchargers on our highways. And crucially, if demand's going up, well, an evaluation could be, well, do producers have the capacity to meet demand? So you could bring in the concept of price elasticity of supply as a factor there. There we go, a quick synoptic video on e-car sales. This one was about influences and a good question to answer. Take care, stay safe, stay happy, see you soon.